Chris. We are doing it. We are here. We are live. I can see myself talking. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Nice. It sounds like we're good. Guys in chat, let us know quite quickly if anything seems amiss. Otherwise, Chris, take it away.
Well, guys, welcome to episode 73. Today we're going to be talking about the Quest 2. No, we're not. No, we're not. I think we all know what we're here to talk about today. Today's the day, Ryan. And we didn't get a headset, so
Womp womp.
yeah, I don't have to
Yeah,
tell you.
guys, it's unfortunate, but we did not get a headset.
I think we talked about this before for you guys. We are both in Canada. We're actually pretty close to each other. Like extremely close. Like if I wanted to go punch Ryan, I could probably do it within like a coffee break. But yeah, in Canada, the PR guys are like, yeah, you're on the list for a headset, and then they're like, yeah, we're not getting headsets.
And yeah, as far as we know, no one in Canada that we're aware of, any outlets at all, got a headset. So,
We don't matter.
yay!
We don't matter. We don't matter. But that's okay. I mean, no, it's not okay. It's not okay, Ryan. It's
We
not
are.
okay.
I'm not raging over here. I'm so insanely jealous of everyone that has a headset. I'm very happy for them. A lot of guys that we know have headsets right now, and it's awesome. I'm pumped to see the hype. I really am excited to see how excited people are. But I am so admittedly jealous. Like if I lived next to GT, I would have stolen it by now. And yep, it's a crime. I would have done it. Unfortunately, there's no one near me that has one, so I can't even steal one. I've been scoping out Best Buys and Walmarts looking for like Sony shipments, nothing I can see. So yeah, here I am. Oh, Ronery.
Yeah, we got a lot of Canadians that follow us. I was just like, I'm reading the chat here. I mean, I knew a few of those guys were, but I don't think it hit me. But that's okay. We're still going to talk PSVR 2 today.
Oh yeah.
In some ways, I guess it's good that we don't have one for the topic today because what we really want to do is kind of I mean, for episode after episode as we've been getting closer, going back in the last year and a half, and Ryan and I have been speculating and criticizing and being excited about celebrating all things PSVR 2 as we've heard announcements or read the blogs. Woo!
Thank God for the blogs.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But we've everything's led to kind of I mean, I wouldn't say this point. It would be like a week from now, but really, it's like now the headsets are in the wild. We've got reviews on headsets from a multitude of sources. So pretty much everything you wanted to know about the headset, you could find out at least to a certain degree. And we've seen a bunch of games now, and we've got a lot of input. And I think that now we can kind of go, okay, let's just where are we at right now? What's the term? A sit rep? Is that the right term?
I don't think you're using it quite right.
I know I don't think I am. It doesn't sound. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right, Ryan. But we're pretty much going to be like, okay, where are we at now? For PSVR 2, like, what do we think about how Sony's handled this? What's in front of us and what's ahead of us? And we're gonna break it down and we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk about what we've heard so far. And but before we get to that, special shout out to our Patreons. We always forget to talk about you guys until the end. We want to throw some appreciation your way. You guys are awesome. That little bit of extra appreciation helps us not only keep the channel moving forward, but the podcast. We do have to buy a lot of games sometimes that we don't get codes
especially
for.
next week.
And especially moving into something like this. Also, when we have to buy games that say we've played on PC or Quest and we just have to buy again, sometimes that hurts, and it's all because of you guys that we're able to do that. Super chats help too, and you know what? At the end of the day, also just you guys being here
Yep,
and
absolutely.
watching and liking and subscribing and doing all those things that you do. It's really appreciated. Even just comments, just popping into my comments and being able to talk VR with you guys is a ton of fun. So wanted to just shout that out to all of you beautiful people. Ryan, what have you been playing?
Actually, I kind of forgot to what I've been playing. I played Dropped at the Cabin. The review dropped today. You and me both actually got to take part in that little adventure. I think you liked it more than I did, just from our playing. But it's definitely got some jank and some balancing issues. But it's got solid bones. I think we can both agree it has solid bones in regards to what it's going for. It's on the Quest only. And it's a basically kind of like a Call of Duty's zombies, not knockoff, uh, interpretation, I guess, whatever, something like that.
No, it's a knockoff.
Okay,
I
I
mean,
mean, well,
I was like, Ryan hasn't played a lot of Call of Duty Zombies, so as I
I
was
haven't.
playing with him, I was kind of trying to point out to him because I knew he was reviewing it and saying, okay, so like the early parts of the game, I'm like, that's very early. It feels like early Call of Duty, like in the cabin and getting outside the cabin. But then the way that the game started to work in more like map objectives, I was saying like starts to play because I like Call of Duty Zombies. I've played it almost, I almost get looped into it almost every iteration of. Sometimes I've bought Call of Duty just for the zombie mode. And I was telling him that future Call of Duty zombie games, as they started to bring in more objective based things where you kind of almost had to figure out what the map's kind of gimmick was. Um, and just because there was almost like a story being told as you opened up various areas, uh, this still does that same thing. Um, but unfortunately, it just doesn't. It doesn't nail the landing. It feels. I mean, you go watch Ryan's review. I feel like he did a pretty good job of explaining kind of the general vibe of the game. It was just okay. I hate to say it, it was just kind of like what we I think expect sometimes from a VR interpretation of a well-loved franchise or a mode. Like I hate to say it, like I don't want to use the term they VR'd it as a negative, but I feel like it's unfortunately kind of accurate. Like
Hmm.
one thing you mentioned in the review that I thought was perfectly described was that I mean, I had said to you that this sense of combat and impact and the sense of like a dropping enemy and stuff just wasn't fun. It just didn't feel impactful. But the other thing you mentioned was the fact that the enemies that you're fighting, it almost looks like they've had to cut their frame rates down animation wise. So they kind of seem they don't. It's not like they're teleporting through the map, but it looks like they're just like skipping animations moving through. So all of a sudden they're just kind of on you and they kind of leap a little too far and they just don't seem to have a lot of weight behind them. And it just leaves you this overall sense of just kind of like sometimes going through the motions and they just bombard you, which is obviously how a zombie game works, but sometimes it just feels, I don't know, cheap. I guess one thing I've watched your review and I have to rewatch it, but did you mention the fact that there's only one map?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, I did. It was actually a very comprehensive review because of your input. So,
yay
as
me.
I tend to forget certain things. But yeah, so that and then something I wanted to mention. I can't really talk about too much yet. It's a game called Presentment of Death. It's a Steam and Quest game. I'm not sure if when the Quest release is going to be, but it's basically super hot with a bow and arrow. And I can't give my total thoughts on it. But basically, everything happens in slow motion. Like time doesn't stop, but it happens in slow motion. But when you draw back your bow, time then goes normal. So the faster you can fire a shot, the more kind of slow mo you get. It's super hot with a bow, and I'm really digging it. I've only played a little bit so far, but basically, it's just something to keep your eye out on for, guys. It's called Presentment of Death. It's a really kind of not the best name for a game.
It's a horrible name.
As I said, not the best name for a game. But it's coming out, I believe, March 1st or 3rd, something like that. So keep your eye on this channel. We'll be covering it for sure. But it's for those that are longing for like a super hot sequel. This is definitely something that, along the same lines, but different enough to actually be good. I don't know, not good, not the same, but still feel like in that same thing. I mean, there should be there should be a bow and arrow super hot. There should be a gun super hot. There should be just I don't know a whole bunch of different things. Doesn't matter. Those are my two things. Chris, what have you been playing?
I mean, you guys saw what I was playing a little bit. I saw Gun Jam. No one's watching that video. I don't blame you. You should go watch it. If you're thinking of buying it, don't buy it. It's just again they VR'd it, and I got to stop you saying that because
You do.
it's not favorable. But I hate the fact that it actually carries some weight to it. Is that they took a core game that was like a kind of like a BPM Metal Hellsinger kind of first person shooter set to rhythm, and it was like a full locomotion, like campaign type thing, and they turned it into a wave mode. I just it's just garbage, and I feel like it's really misleading and it's really disappointing. I feel like they kind of just I don't know. I don't want to use the word cash grab because I guess it's kind of polished, but it's just it's a trash game, and I don't even want to talk about it anymore. I want to talk about PSVR 2.
So do I. I really, yeah, I'm done with this. I really want to talk about PSVR 2. Sorry, games, we love you, or we don't love you, either one. But PSVR 2, I mean, I'll start this off by saying I'm totally hyped. I'm still riding this hype train hard. But and you mentioned before, I'm gonna start this off by basically saying like our positives, negatives, what we're enjoying, what we're looking forward to, all this stuff. But I want to start off by basically talking about what I think is a pretty big deal. And we kind of opened up with the fact we're not getting a PSVR, but Sony's marketing for the PSVR 2 up to this point. And I kind of want to like address whether you think it's working, whether you think it's the right, like how they handle it is the right thing or the wrong thing. Like where do you think, like where do you land on regards to like bringing this message to the masses in regards to either what they think they want as far as who they're trying to attract, or if they're attracting the wrong attention, or or if they're attracting the exact right amount of attention. Like where do you land on this in regards to Sony and their PR market for this thing over the last 2 years? When did the Sense controllers get announced? Sense controllers.
Like a year and a half.
You're wrong. It's been longer than that.
Year and a half.
Anyways, answer the question, Chris.
So I've been thinking a lot about this. Obviously, with this being today's one of the focal points of today's episode, I think that the mass majority of us would agree that Sony has done a not a great job of building up excitement for this headset. I feel like there's been I have not felt like Sony has been excited about their own headset. That has been the takeaway that I get. With just like not a lot of commercials, not a lot of showing on stage, not really. Lots of everything to blog posts, really letting influencers and other media outlets kind of do the speaking for them. I just feel like there's not a lot of excitement around this headset, and there should be. There is to us, but we're generating it. And when I say us, I mean those watching this as well. Now, I did say to Ryan that looking back at it though, so I feel like there's a couple reasons why Sony might have done this as a marketing plan. It's not obviously not by accident. I've often said that I think this could be a bit of a soft launch. I still truly believe that. I think it's the only thing that makes sense. I think that there's also learned lessons in that Sony probably spent a lot of money that they did not recoup on PSVR 1 because they marketed the crap out of that. And that's unfortunate because we also see that as a comparison for the way that they hyped the PSVR 1 to the way they're hyping the PSVR 2. And even though PSVR 1 was supported all through its lifespan and Sony didn't abandon it like a lot of people felt that they did, you could see
still
Sony
say they do. They still say they do.
I know they did. But you could see Sony backing off over the, after the first few years, I guess, as far as like going hard on it. Like I think at that point they realized and they admitted that their sales forecasts were inaccurate. Like they didn't sell like they thought it would. I think they and a lot of developers got a wake-up call of the realities of where VR was still at. Where it be price point wise, expectation wise, the hardware itself wise. I think that there was just a bit of a sobering effect there, and I think that that's what we're seeing right now. With Sony just not willing to spend the money. Now, let me ask you this: if I have a couple questions for you to think about. First of all, would be that if Sony was to come to us and go, all right, fan base, we have X number of dollars in the millions, obviously, maybe even $1 billion, a billion, and said, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to like scream from the rooftops and do a bunch of fancy commercials promoting our launch lineup and like the few AAAs that we might put out over the next year or so, year or two? I'm just saying within this time frame. Or would you like us to put that into developing games to just prove it? Instead of telling you what and trying to promote and trying to make excitement, why don't we just make the games that are going to force you to get excited about this? because we
Um,
only have so much money that we're willing to spend on this based on our return on investment. I think that most people would probably say, give us the games. I mean, again, going back into my marketing background, there's it's kind of a push pull method, and you can only kind of push people so hard. Eventually you pretty much just have to win them over by word of mouth and just kind of like leading by example. And if Sony's one could argue that if you make the big banging AAA games for VR that we all say we want, and if they have to pay for those, and that means they can't market this headset, well, we'll do it for them. I mean,
okay, I'm gonna step in here. So I think obviously we kind of want, I mean something will sell itself. I mean, that's kind of what you're going on, where if they're putting money towards these massive crazy awesome games that are just like getting all the hype, God of War VR, blah 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 blah, then for sure like the masses will grab onto that. But I think counter to that is the fact we've seen so little advertising on them. Like, like you said, millions of dollars for a game. I can't imagine it takes a ton of money to put together a state of play. It's basically a collection of trailers with some, with some screens like in between. Like, that's it.
it's a
A state
good
of play is
point.
not, I mean, I could make a state of play using trailers now for what I have, and I could literally rip what they had, copy it, and put it together on state of play, and it would look pretty much on par with what they do. Um, so
So
it,
that's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna start. Sony won't do it, so we're gonna start putting on every
virtual voice state of
every two
play.
months. We're gonna put on the VR Grid presents State of Yay.
I'm actually really tempted to do that right now and just totally rip them off and be like, if you won't do it, we will. Put a thumbnail now. I'm put a bookmark in that one. Anyways, so and that's where I come down on it. I mean, I'm not saying like don't you don't have to spend like $1 billion on an ad campaign. I'm not saying that. I mean, but we've seen so little in regards to, like, we still don't have an actual, like, we have a launch trailer that came out last year, and we've got a headset trailer that came out a few weeks ago. And they've been releasing a few like single game trailers here and there. Um, but there just hasn't been hype on the back end, and especially when you factor in how they handle pre-orders and how you can get pre-orders depending on which country you're in, and who they've even given press kits to. That's a separate one. But it's sent a really weird message. Like, even now, like the fact in America especially, because you're relying solely on Sony to get a headset, it's dicey, man. Like, I don't know, like, to only have like one source, and that source isn't exactly known for, like, like, they're not Amazon. So I'm not sure how many shipments they're sending out that day, or where their warehouses are and whatnot. But I can see a lot of guys not getting their headset day one, and that's pure conjecture on my part. For all I know, Sony has all their all their boxes checked, and everyone's getting it day one. I mean, I know I've seen payments go through on Reddit. I've been on Reddit like crazy. Where up in Canada, we're the opposite. Where we're relying on retailers to get it, and it's still, I'm checking my Amazon every day. I have two reservations just to make sure I get one, hopefully on day one, so I can cancel the other one. And I'm checking every day, and so far it's just like, yep, it's pending. No money's been taken from me yet, and it's just like, man, like, what if I don't get this till, like, I'm banking on getting this thing Wednesday? What if I don't get till Friday? And to me, this really, really, really sucks, because if you're announcing a headset February 22nd, 2022 or 23, it's coming. Well, it's available to buy, but you'll get it like a day or two after. So it's not good. Like, that sucks. Like, it's kind of a crap way to build hype when you can't even. If I decide, like, you know what, all the videos today, everyone's loving PSVR 2. I've been on CNET and all the other channels are just like, this is the best thing ever. I'm gonna go buy PSVR 2. Well, you can't. You can't go to Best Buy in America. You can't go to Target. You have to go through Sony's website to then order it and then ship it out. That's messy. That's straight up messy. Like, if PS5s were only it's only sold solely through PlayStation, that's messy. So I question, like, it's picking any one part. It's easy to be like, dismiss it as being like, okay, whatever. That's the one thing. But when you look at it all as a whole, I do feel like Sony has dropped the ball in regards to marketing, and I'm counting that point by saying it's also, I agree with you now 100%. It does feel like a soft launch. I mean, there isn't a lot of bangers at launch. There's a ton of games, but not a lot of, like, like, oh my God, play this at, like, crazy. We're up to like three or four major games, and then a bunch of older stuff, which is fine. So I can see where they don't want to, like, fully market this thing, because it's very easy to take down, and I will take it down later in the episode. So I do see it, but I still feel like they haven't even done enough to even ask for the attention. Like they're just it just feels like PlayStation 5. PSVR 2, like they just like they just, it's already a side note, and it shouldn't be a side note just yet. I'm not saying blow it up. Like I said, maybe by the end of the year, your running theory is that by the end of the year there'll be some pretty big titles coming out that will kind of allow it to do like a big push, maybe this fall, this Christmas. Um, but right now it does feel like it's just like the PSVR 2. Like it doesn't feel like they care about it. Not even the way I want them to, the way I think they should be doing it to at least get the right attention. From like just from their own standpoint, not relying on everybody else, but actually just from them. Like where is your PlayStation VR 2 trailer? Because releasing the trailer on launch day, which I'm sure they're probably gonna do, it's like, yeah, but like this is your time to build the hype, and you're not. So I think I answered your questions there.
Kind of. No, I mean, I just, you kind of did. I will say I will agree with your point that the fact that they didn't even do a dedicated state of play is pretty sad. It is. It just is. And I think that was the one point that you made early on that I kind of like. That I'll get okay. Yeah, like they could have done something around that. And I'm not really saying which way they should have gone or not. I guess I am saying that I would rather them spend more money in games than in promotions. I do feel that, but they still seem to be um they still seem to be kind of apprehensive about being proud of the PSVR 2. It's like they don't. It almost feels like we know that there's been some change at the guard at Sony, and I hope this isn't true, but it almost feels like there were some people that decided to do PSVR 2, and it's gone so far that then when new people came in, like almost like a showrunner on a show, it was too late to change the direction, but they don't seem to be nearly as excited about it. And so they're doing the bare minimum. That's what it feels like. I hope that's not true. Like I said, I still hope that it's a bit of a soft launch and that Sony was just very cautious of the issues they ran into the PS5 with um just current economic issues and supply chains, and they just didn't want another situation where now people couldn't find a console and a headset and it'd just be a disaster. They just I'm hoping that that's part of it. And but it just seems weird, that's all.
I mean, just to kind of piggyback off that point, one of the things we mentioned in the past is we want to see Sony basically come out of the gate saying, like, this is what PSVR can do. PSVR can do all this stuff compared to every other headset. This is the things it can do. And we're not seeing that. I mean, they'll, like I said, they mentioned foveated rendering in their little, like, their headset trailer. But if you don't know, if you've been out of the VR market for more than a few years, if you only had a passing interest to begin with, and someone says foveated rendering, you have no idea what that means. So putting that in just words without even breaking down what that means doesn't help the headset. And that's where I think that's where I'm getting a little frustrated is we now have this thing is so close and we're seeing these things videos drop. I mean, everyone's saying Call of the Mountain is a visual marvel. Like it's absolutely stunning. You can lean one of the reviews, you lean in and see little ants like carrying leaves walking up the side of a cliff. And they said the attention to detail is on par with what you expect out of a AAA PS5 game as far as presentation goes. And that's what we want to see more of. Obviously, Resident Evil 8, GT7, which people can't play yet because it's a patch release, and so no one gets early access to those, which is kind of funny. So as we get, but even with that out, like I still, and maybe launch day, it'll be like, this is what we can do, and they'll just show the games that are coming, and just like blah, like fuck you, Quest. I shouldn't have swore. Sorry, YouTube. But it's but it's like I'm not seeing that. Like, and if you didn't know and you looked at the launch lineup, like it's largely old games, and I think they're running to it's a mixed message of what is this thing? Is this thing just another headset, or is it the next headset?
But see, now that might be right there why Sony hasn't put together the big hype yet, like really gotten behind it promotional wise, because the truth of it is with the exception of Call of the Mountain, GT7, and Resident Evil 8, that's really the only things that they could put in a sizzle reel right now to blow the socks off of people. And maybe that's just not enough. and maybe they were like, no, we want to wait till the fall until we've got like maybe another 3 or 4 titles to throw behind that, and then it becomes that because then they can be the headset that you're saying, like, what are you? Are you a next gen headset? Like, are you delivering like what like PS5 VR? You know, well, maybe Sony's like, we're not there yet. Like, we're still rolling this thing out. We don't have the games yet because right now they've like, I mean, for all of you who haven't played like the other 40 launch games, whatever, that are mostly came from Quest and stuff. There's some amazing experiences there for you, but those aren't the experiences that you need to be shouting from the rooftops for
Hmm.
to the people who are flat gamers and looking and trying to justify spending X number of dollars on a headset. Like, Demio is my favorite VR game just about in the last couple of years. That doesn't mean shit to anybody. And you can't even break it, you can't even promote it very well. You can't even show it to somebody on a screen. And what do you tell them? It's like kind of like a D&D light game with cards and
Yeah.
characters you move around on a board until they're in it and they're like, holy crap, this is so cool.
Well, and that brings me to like another point then is like, why don't we have the games? Like, this has been in development and in plans for some time. Like, why don't we have a few more bigger games? I'm not saying we need like a dozen games, but we just keep mentioning the 3 games, and we're not out. Like there, I guess you can, like there's like mention Star Wars if you want, which is still a Quest port, and from the reviews sound like it does feel like the exact same game. It just looks a lot prettier. Um, and there's a couple more, obviously No Man's Sky. I guess After the Fall, it's in that ballpark, sort of. I
No
guess.
Man's Sky, yes. After the Fall,
Yeah.
no. I mean, not really. I mean, you can't tell. Again, it's just like, if like, assume they know nothing. If I just go to my gaming friends and be like, dude, you got to come over and play After the Fall, they'd be like, oh, okay. And well, it's like a Left 4 Dead game.
I gotta put my launch lamp down here now because I'm forgetting games here.
I'm not,
Uh,
like, even
oh yeah,
even
I agree. I'm agreeing with you.
even like, like Kayak VR Mirage looks
Kayak,
good.
yeah, that. Thank
It
you.
looks good in a trailer, like, and it is a game that that Sony could throw in a sizzle reel. But if again you go to a flat gamer, like, well, what is it? Well, you kayak. Well, what? Okay, well, what do you? No, that's what you do. You paddle
Racing
around.
and exploration.
You paddle around in water. And I think that some people are gonna get it, like, wow, this is gorgeous, and then move on. Like, I mean,
Dude,
there's
if
not
I
a
meet
whole
one
lot,
person who says that this game sucks, they're being blocked.
but
I don't.
but I think some people think it's gonna be a bigger deal than it is.
It's huge, buddy. It's you've played it, right? You've been in the headset in Kayak, right?
I have, but it's not.
Have you? It's like the most beautiful VR game in existence. It's like photorealistic, and I know it's like whatever you're like talking about the gameplay, but just that alone is mind blowing in VR. Mind blowing. There were people who would kill for the like we would like years ago. We were like, why? Like the fact that that kind of visuals exist in VR is amazing, Chris. It's amazing, and you're
I
like,
know it is,
maybe no, it's amazing,
but
and it will amaze people for $25. It will amaze people.
I know it will. I know it will. But I'm just saying, like, if you're a flat gamer and that's what my coming at a point of Sony's point of view, looking at it, going, what have we got in the barrels to shoot at people? That's all I'm saying. No, I want to move a little bit away
Oh,
from
stop. Salvador, I didn't miss it. $20, man. Thank you so much. We appreciate your service. Are you servicing us?
Ooh.
Salvador, we love you so much, man. You're keeping this channel alive.
Single-handedly
Single-handedly.
keeping us on the payroll. And Salvador said that we were talking about marketing, that there was a German journalist who basically did what we were talking about for Sony, that he just put a bunch of trailers together and threw it out there because Sony wouldn't do it. I don't know, man. Like, I want to move away a little bit from the topic because we've talked a lot about kind of our disappointment and how Sony's handling it. But I told you I had a couple of things that I've been thinking of. The other thing I had talked to you a little bit about today was that Sony, I got 2 points to this. By Sony seeming to give headsets to pretty much big media outlets, tech channels, and then real weird brandos that have audiences that might they just don't really necessarily care about VR. They're not VR fan bases. And then and and then basically a week ahead of time getting all that coverage come out, and then at launch getting all that additional push from all of the channels who didn't cover it. I don't think this was Sony's intention, because obviously in the UK they were on top of it, seeming to cover their channels, which is very odd to me that there'd be such a discrepancy between the way that, say, the US, like, I mean, we're Canada,
There's
fine.
not, man. Like, they are two
You,
separate. They're two totally
I
separate.
know,
Like, they don't work
but
together at all.
you think that they would be running from a single mandate, like,
They
I've
do. I mean,
talked.
we can go back to PSVR 1, man. Like, you had to get separate quality assurances in Europe and America
I
for
know,
a
but
VR
it's
game. Like,
weird, and
it's.
it
I
just
agree. It's
it's very
ridiculous.
surprising, because I told you back when I worked at Paramount Pictures, Paramount Canada was who I worked for, and it was really shocking to me how not exciting Paramount Canada was. Like, it was an office with 10 people, and there was a satellite office in British Columbia, and the one thing that was impressive is they had like a private viewing theater inside their office building, which was like the red curtains, little mini theater, exactly what you think of when you think of executives viewing movies. And we got to go in there. That was pretty sick. But with the exception of that, not impressive at all. And what I found out working for Paramount Pictures in Canada was that everything came from LA, like everything. Sometimes to the detriment, because there'd be like, oh my god, like we did a movie called Bad News Bears. Here's a little story time for all of you. If you guys don't remember Bad News Bears with Billy Bob Thornton,
Billy Bob Thornton,
right? Now that was a remake of a movie from like
Walter
the
Matthau.
70s or something, that was very racist for its time,
Oh, really?
even though it was kind of just like it was just a movie of the times. Well, it was a movie around like a very foul-mouthed, inappropriate coach that came in to try to coach these kids. And yet somehow Paramount Pictures didn't know what they were making for a movie, because I was given all these promotional criterias, and I was going around to all these, like, approaching like elementary school boards, giving out tickets for premieres. We were going to like all these different like youth events, and promoting the heck out of this game, this movie, as the fact that like it's a family movie, it's for kids. And then all of a sudden, like literally the day before our first premiere, they're like, emergency stop from Los Angeles. The movie has been screened. Stop all promotions immediately to kids. Because it was like within, like, he shows up, he's drinking and driving with children, he's making racist comments, he's making like mentally disabled comments, he's joking about the guy in a wheelchair, he's dropping like shits and dams. And it was like, oh my, I laughed my ass off in that first premiere. There was a row of mothers pulling their kids out of the theater. I'm supposed to be the Paramount guy. I'm like, ah. Parents come up to me, I want to talk about this movie, like, ah, I'm in tears. And it just shows you the dysfunction of having it segmented like that. And that was even in a system where all the narrative promotion wise was coming from a single like office, basically, in the US. And so this just sounds like just chaos in between different countries. Shout out to all of you watching right now. We're up to 77, which is a really nice number for us, being this small little podcast that we're trying to grow here. So really big shout out for you guys. Please hit that like button. PSVR 2 power.
Triangulator, thank you so much for the $10, man. Once again, you're also helping keeping this thing going. And Clay as well, who says, you owe me money. Thanks, Clay.
Guys, we love the support. Thank you so much. Oh, it says celebrate the first super chat from Clay. Look at you, Clay.
We celebrated.
Dude, we appreciate that. But anyways, I run off on a tangent there. Oh, somebody mentioned Star Trek in the chat. Oh my gosh, Chris Taylor, what the heck, guys? We appreciate this. We really do. We're not Brian without parole, man. We're not rolling in the dough.
Oh my
All
God,
that
Chris!
sweet,
Absolutely.
sweet super chat dough.
Quick! Back on topic. PSVR. I want to hear about PSVR.
Quickly talk about PSVR. So here's my other question to you, though. About promoting this. and I'm trying to remember what it was. It was very poignant. Uh, oh shoot, what was it? It was something along the lines of, oh, that's what it was. Do you think that if Sony had done a big media push, done everything we wanted promotion wise, that like let's just say they did everything we wanted. They were super excited, state of plays, on stage with this thing, um, pumping commercials, just lying to us about how amazing this was. Back to what they want, people sinking into the floor, people putting on their headset and having aneurysms, like all the stuff that they were doing before. Do you think it would make a difference right today? Like day one, as media outlets are getting this, do you think it would actually affect sales numbers? Like do you truly think that they could put more headsets on people's heads?
Assuming PS5 availability wasn't an issue, which apparently it's definitely being reduced like dramatically. I'm seeing unless it's just Sony bots like putting out pictures of Walmarts with Sonys and it's all just lies. Assuming that you could get it easily, yes, I think a bigger push from them would have helped. A bigger push from them before now would have helped with these reviews, because for me, all these reviews happening today would have bolstered what they have. If Sony was saying, this is what it can do, this is what it is, this is amazing, here's our games, they're doing all this, and everyone's like, all right, sure, Sony, like like you're just tooting your own horn here, so whatever. And then everyone kind of waits for the reviews, and then the reviews drop. I think Sony has a very large channel. Like they have like millions of subscribers that just tune into that thing every time they drop a trailer. It's YouTube. It's nothing. You don't have to advertise anything. You just literally drop a YouTube video, like hire your little intern there to put a little sizzle reel together, and boom. Like the cost is absolutely minimal to put together a competent trailer on Sony's side of things. So I think building hype up to today and then having today where everyone's like, oh my god, this is actually amazing, would have been different, because the message would have been out there more. People have been known. I mean, there's still people that are like who don't realize that PSVR 2 is a thing. It's been so quiet, and if you don't follow VR like we do, if you're not like invested in socials, or you have it, or maybe you haven't been in a while, then you don't know. And there's no reason why you would know, because Sony hasn't pushed it. And it comes back to what we were saying before, and that it just doesn't seem that they care. And we know they do. I'm sure they do care. And this goes along with our soft launch theory again. But I think had they done more, whether it was a state of play or just a few more a few more like whatevers, um, even just like a 10-minute showcase, just a 10, like, whatever, it would have gone. I think it would have gone a lot to at least them showing confidence in the product, because I see it a lot of people are saying it's already dead because XYZ, and XYZ is what Sony didn't do. And I think that it would have shut that message down. It's already dead. It's already behind. There's no games, because you don't know. There's no how unless you actually went and looked it up, and you actually had to look it up, you wouldn't know what's coming on PSVR 2 unless you.
Which might be what the point is. Is it maybe I mean there's could be a really good. I don't want to go back to this. I don't want to go too much far back into this whole like what Sony should have done promoting this wise, because I want to talk about the headset and what we know about the headset, and what we think about some of these games. But I feel like Sony must, based on how they're reacting to this, must feel like they don't have. I feel like they are feeling a little gun shy about, even though, look, there's two camps here. I mean, honestly, there's people who think the headset is, who I guess know what the VR space looks like price wise, knows what we're getting for that price for a headset, and either the price is, and I think for most of those people, they're like, yeah, like it's depending on like how much, what your financial situation is. I think that people still either are in two camps. They realize that they're actually getting a lot of headset for their money, at least based on what the current price is for this level of headset. Versus the people who are just like, it seems, and there's a lot of them, just think it's way too expensive. All they see is a headset that is a peripheral that is
Wired.
that is oh, fuck off. That is more expensive than the console. I understand that that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, especially if they haven't been bitten by the VR bug. If you've been bitten by the VR bug, it's a lot easier to be like, I'm all in. And like when you look at PC headsets, like honestly, standalone VR is just I don't think it's in even the conversation. It's obviously always going to get brought in, but like the Quest 2 is not a competitor for the PSVR. It is,
It
but
is right now, and that
but it really shouldn't be. And I don't want to go down that. I shouldn't even have brought that up. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But the fact of it is that it is part of it does equate into what people see for value for a headset, and I feel like Sony might be a little gun shy about saying having enough ammunition to go. This is totally something you need to get the most out of your PS5.
yeah, I flip flop. I mean, I flip flop on this too. I mean, like this is also, as VR enthusiasts, the launch is definitely less than impressive in regards to the next thing. But as it's also, there's 40 games here, and like I said, it's some of the best VR has like, games that have ever come out, like in the last 6 years, for God's sakes. I'm even pumped to play Thumper on this thing, and Thumper. Shut up, Chris.
I know
I'm
a lot of
pumped.
people are. I know they
Like
are.
I love Thumper, man. Thumper is probably the most stressful game I've ever played, but not like stressful like in a negative way. Like it was just so intense. I mean, they say rhythm violence. It's stressful is not the word. It's intense. It's that intense. Like that game just like it was intense, but more intense than any game I've ever played before. So seeing that on 4K on a 4K screen, I'm stoked for that. And sorry, I was the libraries, but even marketing, like you can still even market this thing as like we have the best games. You can say we have some of the best games coming. There's still it's the lack of a message entirely is what's kind of fueling this argument here. If there was just something, a little bit of something, a little bit of something would have gone a long way, even without going over the line of like this is what we don't have yet. I think it's just like I say, it's that lack of messaging overall that still feels like they just didn't do enough. And that's where I'm landing on this. They just, in my opinion, they didn't do enough. Anyway, even like I said, even just one state of play, or even just even just drop a sizzle reel or do whatever, just something along those lines would have gone a long way. But they literally did like nothing. I mean, you were watching the CES thing. Hey guys, here's 10 seconds of GT7 and Beat Saber's coming. Yay! Next. And they spent 15 minutes talking about the GT Gran Turismo movie, for God's sakes.
I know.
So
I know. I know. I'm just.
It's mixed.
I don't talk about marketing anymore.
I agree. Okay, so we're gonna move on. We both agree they haven't done enough. It's messy and ugly. And I honestly, I really would love to know, at Sony America, like, is this what they want? Is this what's working? They're just like, yeah, like we did it, guys. This is the plan. Regardless,
so we've gotten up here. We're at launch. I will say, without getting way too much into it, because that almost should be its next episode, or not the next episode, but another episode. Is this just kind of like, what do we do now? Somebody said in chat there, dumping a bunch of marketing in right now wouldn't do a lot. I agree.
No, they're done. I mean,
it's either two. It's right now we're just it's just the rollout phase, and it's like kind of like we'll carry the hype train for you, Sony, for a little while. Don't you worry. I will say that the one thing that Ryan and I brought up episode after episode, my biggest concern right now, and I don't want to get way too into the weeds, but there's nothing past March, really. Like, there's not really. Like
Crossfire. We got Crossfire in the summer.
At some point, right? Yeah. But you know what I'm saying though? Like, there's just not a lot, and there's nothing from Sony. Like, we're talking about these big Sony feeling like they're excited and behind their product. Like this is where we joked about, like, lie to us, and I really mean it. Like,
all these first party studios,
lie to us, man.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen it. We haven't seen a VR game from a first party studio since Everybody's Golf, I think, was the last one from the Sony side of things. Just for PSVR 1. So you have to think in that time, like what have you been doing? And everyone's crying for an Astrobot game. I firmly believe an Astrobot game is coming. I'm hoping, I mean, if they're developing a new game from scratch, I mean, game development, especially for a game like Astrobot, takes time. So maybe they just didn't make that window and didn't want to say anything till, this holiday season. Astrobot 2 VR, who knows, right? But you're not wrong. We literally haven't seen anything in regards to what Sony first party is doing outside of Horizon. Horizon GT7. After that, it's just we don't know, and that's also another point. So I mean, like I said, hopefully
Now
maybe come launch day, it'll be like this is what we have now, and this is what's happening in the future. And then we're
that
just
would
like,
be
oh my
sick if there was
god.
a launch day sizzle reel of like.
I mean, they have to.
I know, but I know, but it's not gonna happen.
Don't they? Or is
Here's
it
what
just a blog
Now
post again?
here's it'll be a blog post. Here's the one thing though that I do think Sony would be smart to do. I'm not saying this is what they're doing. I would imagine that they have to be doing this to a certain degree. Is that they've been pretty quiet about what's happening in the fall. Well, who else has been very quiet about what's happening in the fall game wise as well? Meta. Now we know why Meta's probably being quiet about the fall because it's going to be the Quest 3,
Right.
and that could change this conversation. I think it's going to have eye tracking and stuff like that. I think it has to. Now, I don't want to get into that conversation either, but the truth of it is that we know the Quest 3 is most likely coming in the fall, and Sony would be very smart to have an arsenal of new titles, even if it is like
Mhm.
the next year for PlayStation VR, to just shut that down. Like, just enough. Like, yeah, okay, go have, like I love the Quest. I love it for, like we talk about, I love it for being mobile games, but I feel like Sony needs to separate the two. And that could be why they're being a little bit quiet because they're saving that for when they need to start shutting down those people that are making decisions around headsets. But um now,
So go.
yes,
I was gonna try to switch topics.
that's what I was going to do.
What
Unless
was
you
your
wanted to
topic?
contribute.
Let's choose. What's your topic?
I wanted to talk about headset. At least what we're hearing. We don't obviously have one in hands, but is there anything that
I'll allow this.
I mean, what's your? I guess you've watched a bunch of reviews. I've watched a few, and I want to know what. Oh, there's Savage Gamer with his Into the Radius. You got to be on the payroll, bud. Anyway, and also to Savage Gamers, Lo-Fi is not coming anytime soon, my friend. That game is so far from being finished. But anyway, headset. What's your takeaway?
I've watched a lot of reviews today. As much as I was like, I usually don't watch other content creators. I couldn't help it today. And my takeaway is this thing kicks ass, man. Every single review I watched, other than nitpicky things, um, every review's been positive, like super positive, and that excites me because everyone's saying like this is kind of where VR. This is where VR needed to be 6 years ago, and it's not fair to say that, but it's where we are. The display, the foliage rendering, and how it all works in the headset, the controllers work. It's a bit weird because like this is the only headset on a console, right? Microsoft doesn't do anything. Labo doesn't count, obviously. Switch, um, and anything on PC side of things also kind of dated, I guess, or dated or too premium to be affordable to many people. So it puts the PSVR 2 in a very special place where it's obviously geared towards consumers. It is pricier for sure. And I think it's pricier now, and I really expect with the headsets coming later in the year, I think what people are complaining about now, people are going to shut up when the Quest 3 gets announced, when Apple's headset gets announced, when any of these next gen headsets come out, these standalone headsets come out, and the price goes up to like $700-800, and they still can't do what PSVR 2 can, I think it'll be a different conversation. But as of right now, it's an expensive investment compared to the Quest 2, which is basically the argument being made because no one's saying it's expensive compared to PC. So, or I guess Pico as well for you Europeans over there. So it's expensive, yes, but for what you get, and this is all the reviews are saying the same thing. Like for what you get, it's amazing. Like everyone's saying this is the next level of VR. Like everybody is saying that. Every single like outlet. And sure, I guess all these outlets got headsets early, so I guess they all could be on Sony's dime. I highly doubt that by any stretch. Most of these channels are honest reviews, and they do point out some shortcomings. You know, they do complain about the wire, the sense controllers. They only last about 4 to 5 hours, which is a concern of mine.
Which is not a surprise to me at all.
No, it's not either. I mean, we know
like, I use my PS5 controllers all the time, and yeah, 5-6 hours. If it's a game that's using the haptics a lot, man, it's just burning through them.
And what I haven't heard,
it's still warm when I take.
What I haven't heard yet.
Charger.
What I haven't heard yet from anybody yet is how long it takes to charge them from scratch. I haven't heard one review cover that yet, and I would like to know that because I've someone guessed on Reddit. I think they said it's like 40 minutes. They figured based upon like the
The most I
milliamp
saw
years.
was ACG saying that they seem to charge about the same whether they were docked or plugged into a normal USB-C cable. But he
How
didn't
long
give
was
it.
that?
He
Yeah,
didn't.
see,
I know.
that's what
He
I'm
didn't
saying.
say a
Like I
time,
need to
right?
know this because if it's an hour to charge, then it means I can play for 6 hours and have to take a break. And unless you can plug in two cables and play while they're plugged in, which I'm
Like if you're
assuming
a
you
VR,
can.
if you're a hardcore VR enthusiast, like if you're someone who sits there and plays like all night with your friends. Like I mean, I put in 7 8 hour sessions in Firewall back in the day, like into the wee hours of the morning. I don't have kids like you do. You're gonna have to have a second set of controllers. I mean, when I bought a PS5, I bought a second controller day
Which you
one.
can't buy.
I know. So that's a thing. Yeah, I mean they charge. I think the idea is that most people don't spend more than 5 hours on a headset and one seated go.
That's
I
not true.
But a lot of people don't. You know, especially your average player. I mean, a lot of people don't. I mean,
I think the problem with that though is I think that's also based upon previous gen, which was more prone to cause fatigue quicker.
yeah, but the
This new
PSVR was
tech,
pretty comfortable.
no, but not just, but just as far as the resolution and like all like the things they've put in the screen should alleviate it's like some of that fatigue, not just headset fatigue. I mean, the PSVR by all accounts, this is just as if not more comfortable than PSVR one. But I don't know, I don't like the fact that like 5 hours, like I have to plan for these 5 hour sessions.
Two
If I had,
matches of Demio and you're charging those controllers, and that's the truth of it. It is. But
1.5 matches, man, you kidding me? Some of those TVO sessions go on crazy.
well, I mean, the haptics won't be probably pretty going nuts in them and either. So that'll, it's like it's like your Switch. Like, depending on what game you were playing. If you were playing Breath of the Wild, it would eat your Switch's battery power. But if you were playing some little indie, you could get a lot more time out of it. So I think it's also going to be how the controllers are being used at that time. But regardless, I would say like my general takeaway from the headset. I mean, not a lot surprised me because we've kind of been all over this, the
Mhm.
specs, and we've seen people kind of with hands on. I would say that the headset seems to be better than the PSVR 1 in every single way, which is great. Um, it seems to be very comfortable, which is fantastic. The cable is removable. It seems to be placed pretty proper. The people seem to be not really complaining too much about the audio not being in the headset.
I heard
The
I heard the buds are pretty decent too. Not the best experience.
I've
Everyone's
heard they're
kind of
not great though, not really. Again, it's like what do you care about? Like, are they better than rocking just the sound that's in the Quest headset? Yeah, but like just about anything would. I mean, it's doable. I don't like the fact that everyone else hears what you're doing on the Quest too, right? It's like yeah, I'm playing a video game with Ryan, and it's like oh ah oh. Lindsay's like, what? Shut up. But I, you know what? I really liked how the high end PC headsets have, like the built in audio. I like that. I personally want to be able to put one thing on my head and be done with it. That's I do like that. As soon as someone comes in with a really high quality clip on, I'm in.
huh.
That's what I'm gonna put those on my headset and be done with it. However, I do really like the idea that Sony, just decided to give people the option. I do like that the earbuds plug into the side of the headset. Neat little thing. I think that like when you're not using them.
Mhm.
I don't know. Whatever the audio thing, I just feel like yeah, sure, let people use what they want to use. Obviously, the new Pulse, the PS5 Pulse headset is pretty much ergonomically fits with everything that's going on there. I mean, I will see a few takeaways. It's hard to tell from some of these. This is the problem: is that as far as like media outlets covering this that I trust to like really know VR, like I really trust ACG as far as video game reviewer. But when it comes to like reviewing a VR headset and games, I know that for him this is like almost a time warp because it's like PSVR 1 and PSVR 2. I don't think he's played a lot in between, not really, and so he talks about the fact that there seems to be a little bit of almost a smear effect, which he believes is from the doubling of frames.
That's not
Because
just him. That's been reported in other
okay,
reviews as
and I
well.
heard that. Well, now I'd
Only
heard
reported, I should say, other. It was reported other every game or every report only mentioned it playing Horizon.
Well, which is a little disconcerting considering like that's probably the one that's doing the most heavy lifting.
Well, we
Now,
heard this. This is the story from uh, sadly it's Bradley's story there, where
yes,
this is exactly what we're seeing now.
that it wasn't necessarily ready.
Yeah.
Now the one thing that they told Brad, now this is what this stuck with me though, is that they said it was no, it was the calibration of the eye tracking. That if you didn't do it properly or you took remember they said to him that if you take that headset off and put it back down, it can mess with it. Well, that's all it would have taken is for ACG to be like, "Oh, I'm going to have a drink," puts it back down, doesn't realize that it actually threw that calibration off.
Possibly, but it was mentioned in other reviews. And it was only during smooth turning, right? Like if you actually went like this, if you went like this, you wouldn't see it. But if
He
you actually
noticed it
use
in a
this,
few things.
did he?
He noticed it in Star Wars too.
Okay, I missed
When the
that.
ships were flying by, he noticed it a little bit. That's not good, but I mean, at the same time, he did say that after a while, he didn't really notice it. And then he also
Well,
went on to,
Oasis said the same thing. Oasis said if you're, it's something that actually appears in a lot of games. You'll see it in Quest. You see it in play. You see it in many VR games. If you use the actual like if you use the turn option like that, you can't get that blur.
yeah.
So he said if you're already playing like current gen games like up to this point, then it's kind of something you're already used to, and you
Well,
will
that's
forget
the
about it.
problem, right? It's like, again, when you go back, that's what I meant. Like, it's like I don't trust ACG's opinion necessarily in this. I
Mm,
trust the reason I really enjoyed his opinion was it was someone that I know wouldn't just shit on something and also wouldn't fanboy on something, um, but would give a really honest representation of, say, where the average hardcore gamer and what did they think of this headset? Like, what did this did? And the general takeaway that you got from him was like, this was more where expectations were in 2016. Like when people were like, put
mm,
on the headset. The PSVR 2 is much more in offering now with some of these games where people thought VR was,
right.
and that's huge. He seemed pretty impressed with it, as a general like takeaway tech wise. Um, and we don't know all that he was able to play. He could only talk about a few of them, right? Um, I would say that. So yeah, those few things. Tracking has come up as a few
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
concerns. It's funny though. I've seen some like in our Twitter group, some people are like, "Oh my god, like here you can't like have lights on. I like lights off." I'm like, "Oh my god, where have you been for the last like 7 years?" Like it's like every other headset needs light on.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. And then like, oh, but if it's too bright, yeah, I'm like, yeah, like every
And
inside out
it
tracking
said
headset.
if it's too bright, it has to be extremely bright. I mean, the one time me and you encountered this was playing um Space Powered Arena in your backyard
I've
when
run
the
into it
sun.
down here with lights.
Oh,
The
really?
lighting that I use for a green screen, if I get like way too close and I
I
can
could see
like
that.
and I can overexpose it, I can see a little bit of issues. What I'm more interested in hearing, and I haven't come across anybody talking about this yet, is like tracking. They're talking about tracking, like, oh, some people say that it seems to be not quite as good as the Quest when it misses it. That could be a software thing too. That like because the Oculus has updated itself many, 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 many times with better algorithms for tracking. It doesn't sound like we're in an HP Reverb G2 issue where I actually had the headset and got rid of it because when the controllers dropped like this, it literally just lost them. Like like you'd bring your hands up and then you'd see your hands jerk up. That doesn't seem to be the problem. But what I am interested to hear, and I haven't watched any after the fall reviews for people playing the PSVR 2 version of it yet. But I'm curious how occlusion is. Now, for those of you who don't know what occlusion is, it's like when you're bringing up, say, a first-person shooter and you're bringing the gun up like this. It's typically this hand that's close to your face. When it gets really close, like where it kind of should be when you're holding a gun, the headset has a hard time, and it'll kind of do this a little bit. So that's why you almost feel, even with the modern inside-out tracking, you kind of have to bring your hands out a little bit. It's one of the drawbacks inside-out tracking. It was obviously a huge problem with the old PSVR as well because
Mm-hmm.
it could blend together with all the lights of the headset and the controllers. I haven't heard anyone talk about occlusion because to me that's going to be the big comparison between the Quest. Like even playing Light Brigade, I was running into a few occlusion issues with the Light Brigade, and I just had to make sure I kept my hands do that natural kind of can't bring it in too close. Haven't heard anything about that, but the fact that a few people have been squawking about tracking, um, I was like, ooh, like it doesn't sound. I mean, I've heard from a few reliable VR sources. It doesn't seem to be as bulletproof tracking wise as the Quest. And also, I think for some of those people that now that I think of it, who are making those comments, I think they have Quest Pros, and they might have also gotten spoiled by the fact that the controllers track
Yeah,
as
track
well,
themselves. Yeah.
and they've
Quick shout
gotten
out to
used to that.
Triangulator, Mr. Second Tip there, buddy, and also Mystery Gamer. Thank you as well, man. Um, yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, the tracking doesn't. I mean, it's kind of one of those things, though. I mean, yeah, I mean, it doesn't concern me because I've had tracking issues even with the Oculus, with the Quest 2. And if you're going from the PSVR 1 to a PSVR 2, then I don't care what tracking issues you have with the PSVR 2, it's still going to be miles ahead of what was on PSVR 1 in regards to drifting on the moves and light tracking and, reaching down to the floor and all that jazz. And as someone mentioned in the comments too, there will be updates. There'll be firmware updates and stuff as well to kind of like fix these things. We see it all the time with Quest as well. Updating your controller, please wait. So that'll be coming along. I'm not really too concerned with that. I really am not. I know like a few reviewers have mentioned it. I'm not putting much stock into that, just in regards to their setup and everything else, and who knows what they were doing. What I am excited for, and what's been mentioned in the reviews multiple times, is the Sense controllers and just how awesome they are, and how much it does actually change the experience and make it better, and how just like the PS5 and its dual sense, just how much it improves the haptics in the Sense controllers do make VR like so much better. I'm pretty stoked for that, man. Um,
The thing that
just
I'm the most surprised, like, I mean, I knew the controllers were amazing. I mean, and I play a lot more flat games on my PS5 than you do.
Mhm.
Some games have blown my mind. Like I've even said this, the controller was so good with GT6 or GT7 rather, that even though I have a wheel, I have never brought my PS5 from upstairs downstairs to plug it into the racing wheel and everything. I was like, kind of like, nope. I'm like, I know Sony's gonna give me that VR. They're gonna give me that VR goodness for GT. I'll wait. But honestly, the controller was really good. The way it handled braking, and you could feel the pressure on it, and the way it would handle like wheel loss of traction, and in the way that it did the vibrations, like WRC, that series, man, powering around a corner literally felt with the HD rumble like there was dirt being like bounced around inside the controller. So sick. And so, if they can like, I mean, I've heard they're not quite as strong, but I think they're definitely in the same ballpark. Done. But what's I've been the most impressed with, what some people have been talking about, is almost universally people, especially if they're VR guys, have been surprised at how much they like the haptics in the headset. And that was something that was not promoted as much. Oh yeah, well it vibrates.
Yeah.
Okay, that's for motion sick. No, it's being used. Um, just ACG talked about like using the he talked about some of the mechanics of just using the headset. Like he's like, you have no idea. He's like, how well it works. He's like, and everyone who tried it, it was like, wow, that like playing Call of the Mountain, you grab the bow, he's like, and you could feel the tension of the bowstring in the controller. And when you released it, it kind of like thing, and you could feel it kind of like flick, like you could, and the tension and then the flick, and then also like switching arrow types, just looking. He's like, it
Mhm.
was that's one thing he made a comment about. Again, it being a hardcore gamer, he was like, I cannot tell you how fast that is. Like how easy, like he's like, it's incomparable even to do it as button pushes. Like it's gonna make even classic gaming of like a weapon wheel, bringing it up with L1 and then using the stick. And it's like, who does that? Who uses
Yeah.
an analog stick to select weapon types now? Lame.
And yeah, so I'm pumped. I'm pumped to get the Sense controllers in my hands, man. Like everyone, and then the haptics headset too. Like I'm really stoked to see just how, like, how much that's used. You can turn up the sensitivity in the settings, right down to the haptics being off if you want. I don't know why you'd want that myself, because I mean, as long as it's used right, I think the haptics will only add to the immersion. But I had a point here. I just lost it. I was just reading
Well,
chat.
Ryan's trying to find his point. I just want to do a shout out again, guys. We're at 92 viewers, which is so awesome. I mean, it really does kind of speak to the power and the enthusiasm around PSVR 2, but also to all of you who are sitting here watching us. You have no idea how much Ryan and I appreciate being able to just share our thoughts and our joys with the community and listening to the chat. I mean, us taking this podcast live, I think, was one of the best things we ever did. Because we had all that sweet super chat money. No, I mean, wait a second. Did I say that? No, honestly, guys, it was this interaction of being able to read chat and feel like we're talking as a community. I absolutely love that. Ryan, did you find your point?
No, but Savage Gamer, once again, him and his little points. But he asked for like a games pass for PSVR games, like
God damn
$150 a
no.
year. And Savage Gamer, I'm not sure if you've been paying attention to the news recently, but Xbox recently came out and said that Game Pass is seriously impacting sales of some of the games, like dramatically, where games aren't making nearly as much, because they're on Game Pass first, and that's not good for game development.
We did an
So,
episode. If you guys look back, we did. I fear that it might be on the old channel before we brought it over here. So there are some topics that we should revisit. And one of them
it's all
was
audio. You can still get all the audio
we
versions.
did a topic around Game Pass, and we had some thoughts on that. My biggest problem with I don't want to get into this. Actually, I don't want to get into this. I'll leave you with this statement then. My problem with Game Pass is that although a lot of people probably love the idea that they get a lot for not a lot of money, it is a race to the bottom. It is not. It is, at the end of the day, it is not good for giving people a true sense of the value of what these games cost to make and what what you're actually truly getting. We got to be very careful that we don't get into a situation where we have those expectations. I think Sony's been wise to stay away from that and try to offer some kind of a middle ground.
What was the game they used as the example? It just came out. Game Pass 20%. They said 80% of a game. Hogwarts Legacy. 80% of sales of the actual game were on PlayStation.
Oh,
because,
okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Because Xbox users are waiting for it to come to Game Pass. Like Xbox users aren't buying Hogwarts Legacy because of Game Pass. And it's telling just kind of where that goes. And Game Pass is a fantastic deal for what it is. But I'm just saying recently, and this is from Microsoft's own words, they came out and said that, yeah, it's impacting sales of some games quite dramatically, where games they're making less because of it. Regardless, I don't want to get, like they said, the whole separate conversation.
That is a topic to get into. What I was going, is EAE with the shot across the bow. He says can't give out 2-year expired game codes without good old live streaming. Hey, we told you that they were old codes and that we wanted you were going to be our guinea pigs.
Okay, I'll blow this up right now. Next week, guys, our next week's post-launch podcast, if you're looking for some PSVR 2 codes, maybe tune in live next week. I'm just saying. We may have a couple codes to give away for some PSVR 2 games. So, and
nothing for you, EAE.
I'm still seeing a bunch of Quest games and Steam games, but this didn't seem like the right episode to do that. Seems really kind of off to do just Quest game.
Yeah, but we have been getting we've been working hard behind the scenes to try to get some codes so that we're not fronting all the money to try to review everything. And so we have gotten some codes for some games that we just already own from PSVR 1 upgrades and stuff. So we're going to be passing those on to you guys. That'll be you hang your head in shame, EAE. Yeah, but we're going. Is that a shame? I don't know. Yeah, it kind of looks like a shame face.
We'll take it. That's where our egos are at. That's shame. He feels shame.
But anyways, I do want to get into that Game Pass topic.
Another time.
It sounds like it'll be a very relevant topic to move forward to. I really, I got to think about that for a minute, because as far as it relates to VR, I could see some possible plus sides on that. But anyways,
all right,
that's another topic.
you keep shut up, Chris. So I'm going to start focusing this topic here. So I have these notes I want to get through. So I wrote down, what are we most looking forward to surrounding PSVR 2 post-launch? I said the games, the community, all those sweet views and question mark. And I'll start this up here by saying I'm looking forward.
Okay.
What?
Are we done talking about the headset?
Unless you have something else to say, I guess. I mean, you can still bring. We're talking about PSVR the whole time. What else do you want?
Fine.
I mean, we all
Continue.
know it's amazing. We all agree it's amazing. We're all pumped to play it. It's better than PSVR 1. Chris, what more do you... There's the review. Better than PSVR 1. What are we most looking forward to the most surrounding PSVR 2? So games, community, all the sweet views. And I am very much looking forward to the hype returning to VR. More than anything else, hopefully, every time Sony, like, I guess Switchback will be kind of the next one coming on the horizon as far as like hype goes. But every time Sony drops a PSVR 2 exclusive that looks like it's utilizing the tech and it looks like a premium game, I can't wait for the hype to build, where every single game is like, this is why you buy a headset, and this is why you buy a headset, and this is why you buy a headset, until eventually it's like, why don't you own a headset? I want to see that hype build. All that mixed messaging, all those missed opportunities from PSVR 1 because of the tech and everything else behind it, that's all away now. So now there's literally no excuses, no good excuses to not bring AAA to VR on this headset. So I'm looking forward to Sony. I mean, I shouldn't even say this because I mean, in my personal opinion, they're already screwing up how they've done the launch so far. But I'm really looking forward to Sony, not screwing up the second go on a headset and actually delivering the goods and delivering on expectations people have had for the last 6 years. Because I don't think it was fair on PSVR that people expected as much as they did. That being said, it's 6 years later, and now, by all accounts, this thing now meets or exceeds general expectations. And if that's the case, then there's no reason not to buy the headset, other than obviously, money being a pretty decent factor.
Yeah, well,
But
we're not there yet. That's the thing. We're not there. We're not
no,
at a point there where people can be like, "What? How do you not have a headset?" Like, we're
well,
not
that's what I
there
said.
yet.
I'm looking forward to it, Chris.
Do you honestly think it's going to happen this generation?
This gen, yes. I think, I
Really?
think, I think, well, I should say I'm optimistic, I guess is a better term. It really depends on what happens in the next year or two in regards to what we see from them. If this thing continues to be a Quest port console, that's trouble. It's 100% trouble if this thing is all just ports of games built for a mobile chipset, because those games just aren't big and they aren't expansive. There's no way around it. I don't give a shit if it's my favorite Quest game for that year. The Quest has limitations, and just building even up-resing these things and making them as pretty as they can possibly be, they're still going to be at their core Quest games, and you'll be able to tell. So if
So
Sony can get out of that trap and release a lot of first-party games, if Farpoint 2 is now a 15-hour campaign and it feels like Halo and it's just freaking amazing and it looks amazing and it's just crazy, it's that kind of shit that for sure. If there's enough of that on the console, then yes, it will work. If Call of Duty does drop something big, or if something along those lines comes out huge, then yes. I mean, if Medal of Honor came to PSVR 2, the PC version, I think that would move the needle in that right direction. I'm not saying it's going to like sell a billion headsets. Medal of Honor wasn't the best game, we both agreed, but it's those kind of franchises coming to VR this time around and properly that yes, could happen this generation. I'm optimistic it will, but it really does depend on what Sony does. And like we said at the beginning of the episode, we don't know what their plans are after launch. We just don't know. I'm just hoping with fingers crossed that they do and that they know what they're doing and they actually have the licenses and they're utilizing their first party dev teams to give us premium AAA VR experiences.
yeah, and I don't think we're there yet. I mean,
No,
am
we're
I
not there yet.
optimistic? No, actually, I'm hopeful. I do. I still hope. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I think that the only way we get to a point where people are just like, where we're like, people are like, you're just like the odd person that you don't have a VR headset. This is at this price point is just not realistic. But I think to get even in spitting distance of that, it's going to just come down to software. It's going to come down to games. We'll just have to see how that plays out. It's too soon to tell any of that right now. We barely even know what Sony's got planned for the next 6 months, let alone the next few years.
Triangulator, Gabe Newell does not give a crap about Sony's money for Half-Life 3. Steam does not care about the sales of that game. Like, Steam has no. As much as
Steam has even said they don't care about making games. Like,
no,
they don't need to. They're not
Steam
there.
makes so much money just by being Steam They take 33% of every game sold on that platform.
And they
They don't
lost
give a
money
shit
on
about
Half-Life
one
Alyx.
game on another platform.
I'm gonna say it right now, guys. I know a lot of you know I think this, but
You've already said this 1,000 times.
I'm gonna say it one more time.
This is no longer a
to.
hot take.
I've got to say it again.
Here's a shout fact.
I keep seeing it in chat.
I'm
telling you guys,
I agree.
Half-Life Alyx is not the game to be all end all. It is a beautiful looking game that is has slow movement. It plays nice. Like the gunplay feels great. Everything about it is hyper polished. But you still have to teleport to do anything other than basically walk slowly. It has very limited upgrades to it. It has a cool storyline, but it's very linear through buildings and side streets and stuff. It's not the game that I think a lot of people have made this up to be. It would be great to see it on PSVR. I'd love it so that people could play it and then shut up about it. But
look, Half-Life rides the fact it's pretty. It's undeniably pretty, and the physics engine behind it is amazing. And I think there's such a we are PSVR 1, 2 users especially. We don't have those types of experience. So, and there's a void. There's an absolute void in regard to AAA VR, which Half-Life Alyx is. We both agree it definitely doesn't do VR proper in some ways. There's no melee. There's no melee in Half-Life Alyx. But I think there's such a longing for that AAA VR that it doesn't matter. It's just people want to it's the same thing. People want to see that kind of premium in the headset, and they know
and you're getting
it's
it.
not
It's called Call of the Mountain. It is Half-Life Alyx. Even with the complaints, the reviews have not been glowing about it. I've heard some people saying, "Oh, it's a climbing simulator." Well, no, there's lots of climbing in it. I mean, nothing.
Apparently, there's lots of climbing.
Absolutely nothing in the reviews surprised me at all. And everything was there in the trailer for you. It was obviously linear. It was obviously narrative driven. It was obviously a side story from Aloy, so probably wasn't going to be anything super important. It had on rails combat sequences, pretty much. It had very limited crafting. It was more about just doing things, and it was going to be the best introduction to a VR headset for the masses. It was going to be a show stealer. It literally is Sony's Half-Life Alyx to Valve's it's Sony's Half-Life Alyx. Yeah, okay. To Valve, how they gave that with the Index. I mean, it is the introductory title to blow your minds. Now, hopefully in terms of Sony, it won't be the last of those games, unlike Valve, who did one title and then just moved on with it. I'm not shitting on Half-Life Alyx with people. It's more actually what I'm trying to get across is you're getting something pretty much on the same level with that launch bundle.
Yeah,
you're getting that hyper high-end VR experience but that was made for the masses, so it's got comfort in mind, and it's just not going to be the most VR as fuck game out there.
I think I think, not to say they'll be let down, but I don't think they'll be blown away by Half-Life in 2023 like they were 4 years ago, 2018.
Well, I mean, if all you're coming from is PSVR 1, yeah, you probably will.
It depends, though. I mean, but you might, but the longer Half-Life Alyx takes to get here, the less likely that's going to happen. I think, Half-Life Alyx set the bar 5 years ago, and I think in that time things have changed, and stuff like Call of the Mountain, and even Resident Evil, stuff like that it does change the bar in regards to what we expect. And Half-Life Alyx coming now, it's amazing. But I think it won't be as amazing as it was 5 years ago, even on a PSVR 2. We're getting sidetracked.
No, it's just yeah. I mean, it's in some ways it's kind of sad that Half-Life Alyx still has such a pull that everybody wants to see, that everybody wants that title. I just feel that a lot of PlayStation VR 2 people, once they start to play some of these new games, with the big one being Call of the Mountain. I'm just saying right now, I think you guys you're not gonna be missing out on a lot other than a cool shooting game. It is still a very, very slick ass game. I said, hyper polished. But anyways, I mean,
give me Asgard's Wrath.
Totally, that's what I'm saying. There's a VR title.
So I said most looking forward to. What are you most looking forward to in regards to PSVR 2? What is your expectation of this headset? What do you your loftiest?
At launch?
Yeah, and after, what do you think, as far as I said, what are you most looking forward to from PSVR 2? Is it like the push for AAA? Is it that resolution? Is it just like the media attention returning to VR?
It's
Like what?
all of those things, but I will say, as somebody who was a console kid and then has spent a lot of time on the PC, because that's kind of where like the better VR experiences were as the PSVR started to age out. And also obviously with the channel taking, needs must to take it to a different level production wise, just having to get more savvy with computers, like as far as like editing and OBS and all of those things. I will say that the thing I am probably the most looking forward to as a gamer slash content creator is just ease of use. I am looking so forward to being able to have my list of VR games on the PlayStation 5 and just jump between them. Just like, yeah, I'm done with this game. Next game. Yeah, I'm done. Nope. Next game. Next game. Next game. And not be like, oh my god, I'm having frame problems. What do you mean Steam's it just crashed? What the hell? What do you mean Oculus isn't the runtime? Ugh! Like I'm just tired of the finickiness of PC. Like I'm just, it's one of the reasons that I've never been a huge player of PC mods, even though there's some like pretty epic VR mods coming for the Unreal Engine, that should make things a lot easier. But I don't want to dick around with games and then break games because I put files in a folder that now the core game won't launch and just all that crap. I just want to play games. I want it to be easy. And I'm so looking forward to be able to just jump in and play games. I'm looking forward to not having to like hope and pray that a game has party chat built into the game, because I can't really get into a proper party. Um, and just I'm just looking forward to the ease of use of playing console VR. At the same like kind of basic level that I went to PC for. What about you?
Right along those same lines, and like I said, it returns AAA. I'm getting quested out. I see it every time. Like I love my Quest for what it can do, but I don't like it for what it can't. And the longer it goes, the more I just see what the Quest can't do. And it seems like every game I've reviewed in the last few weeks, even months, has been like, but it's held back by X, Y, Z. You can see it's in their pad. You can see the shortcuts. You can see, all the things that they're doing to get this thing to run on a Quest and even run poorly. And I guess a good example would be Saints and Sinners, and just how shoddy of a launch they had with that. And they've since patched it and apparently fixed the bulk of the issues. But it still stands that they're pushing that thing to its absolute limit. Whereas typically, and I think that's with PlayStation, we typically see the best stuff for the headset. Usually comes out at the end, but like the best use of the tech on PlayStation usually comes out at the end, right? Last of Us came out at the very end of PS3's
They're squeezing
lifespan,
that last bit of
but they
optimization out.
yeah, but it doesn't feel like they're squeezing it, right? Whereas in the Quest, you can literally see like frame rate drops, you can see jank, you can see this game barely fitting on here with low, reduced textures and everything else. On the opposite end, you see these first party studios from PlayStation figure out how to like use every bit of tech to maximize, and that's what I'm expecting from this thing. Like what we're seeing now for like Horizon, ideally 4 years from now, we should be seeing games that hopefully, let's say blow Horizon out of the water, but exceed what even Horizon's doing. Um, there's also, I guess, now that I'm thinking about it, and Horizon is another perfect example of still kind of like, um, of having like the safety belt on. I can't, my terms are escape me, but like Horizon, we know, we've seen it. If you've watched the reviews, it's largely a climbing simulator, a little bit of walking, and any of the combat's on rails. You can only move left or right. And that to me is a little bit of hand holding in regards to VR and like they don't what they're scared people will do in the headset in regards to sickness or whatever. And I'm hoping anyways that with the tech in the headset, we see a reduction in sickness as far as it being like a tagline on a review of a product saying it made me sick. I did a survey on Reddit a couple weeks ago, and basically it was basically 30% split, 30% no sickness, 30% a little bit of sickness, maybe one or two times, and 30% who gets sick quite often in VR. So I'm really hoping with this new tech that gets reduced, and there's more of a focus on what it can do in regards to entertainment and less on what it might do to some and not others. I
There
mean,
has
like,
been way less from the masses watching stuff today. Commentary around VR sickness, which was such a killjoy. You literally could not see anyone do a review on the system or a game without mentioning it. Although, leave it to IGN to be the little bitches that they are, because their reviewer is like, I got vertigo because it was high when I was looking down, and after about 30 minutes, I did feel a little nauseous. It's like, you know what? Go get a real gamer to come play this VR headset, because obviously you found some little bitch intern to do this review, and I'm tired of hearing IGN's little cries about me comfort. Wah.
oh, we got a troll here. We got a troll. What's up, Zions? VR is trash. It will never grab the attention of AAA developers. Good for you, Zions. Welcome to the chat.
Hey Zion,
Yeah.
you know what they say? If you feel stupid, don't open up your mouth and prove it.
But that's it. It really is just a return to form. Like, you know, people, multiple reviews said, we said it earlier, like, this is now meeting expectations that people had 6 years ago. So if that's the case, then let's not only meet those expectations, but let's exceed them. Let's see what this tech can do. Let's see what the haptics can do. Let's maximize what's in this thing, because nothing else on the market currently can do what the PSVR 2 can do.
Well, one of the biggest takeaways that I think, just to drive home again this competition with PC, one of the biggest things that PSVR 2 has going for it right now is very much a console advantage, and that is that consoles have gotten to a point where they've got enough power to be taken seriously, but they've also got a few things that are standardized across the board. So the SSD being a huge one, that means developers know that every single console, that every single PS5 has an SSD, and they can use that to stream data in almost in real time. Like, you see that in especially the exclusives. And then you take that in the fact that you know that every single headset now has dynamic foveated rendering, right? A lot of people just call it foveated rendering. We've had foveated rendering, but dynamic foveated rendering with the eye tracking, knowing that every single headset has eye tracking. You can't do either of those things if you're on PC, unfortunately. You can try to, like, allow for all different types of PCs and headsets, but the fact is that a developer cannot make a PC VR game and go, I know that they're running this on an SSD. I mean, I guess we're going to get to that point, I think, pretty soon, where they make that mandatory. But to guarantee that there's eye tracking, I mean, my understanding is that some of the super high-end headsets might have eye tracking, but they're pretty much just being utilized in, like, VR chat to look at your friends. I think that the HTC the Vive Pro 2 has eye tracking, but again, it's pretty much just being used in social VR. Because no one can take advantage of it across the board. They can't count on it. I think we're going to see the Quest 3 with eye tracking, I'm pretty sure, because I think that it's really going to need
I would imagine so,
to optimize the limited power that it has. But the fact is that it's a huge point for where the PSVR 2 sits right now. I mean, we've seen certain developers comment on it. I don't know if I believe that they're better than a 4090, but they're definitely easier to optimize for.
I gotta say it like that. Better than a 4090. I don't know if Dave Vills of Pavlov fame is out there just lying about he has no reason to lie about it whatsoever.
I think that I feel like, I mean, I agree with the people that you're talking about a massive raw power difference that I think is, it's like, based on your optimization of the game, maybe, but, you know, something that's really killing computers, like, say, like Microsoft Flight Simulator, I think that would be a rough one even for the PlayStation, although I'd love to see them attempt it.
Actually, one thing that the reviews mentioned that we didn't touch on was the cinema display in the headset. They said the fact you can actually resize it bigger and smaller, and they said it actually makes for a very wonderful, like, second TV. It only goes up to 1080p though. It's not 4K, obviously, because they're rendering a screen inside your screen. But by all accounts, like that's a really, really, really um fantastic use of the headset in regards to that, watching movies or whatever. They say it won't replace your screen. One of the reviewers though did show them, they said it was a bit awkward, obviously, because the way the headset works, but they fully laid down and stared at the ceiling with the headset on, and were watching a movie like as if it were on their ceiling. Which I thought was really cool because that's something that you just couldn't do with the old headset. I can very much see you're distracted right now.
I'm just making sure that chat's not getting out of control.
Okay.
Good fuck face there.
Yeah, so I mean, did you get the whole social screen thing? The fact the guy laid down with it and was watching a movie while laying down with the headset on?
No, I didn't.
He had a pillow on. Like he said it's awkward because there's still the button and stuff back there. But he said you can do it and reset your screen so it's actually on the ceiling,
which I've done. I'm like in hotel rooms on my Quest.
Yeah, so, on the Quest. Yeah, but PSVR 1 could not do that. PSVR 1 only wanted the screen like there. You couldn't, if you did it, you couldn't do it up there.
No, it's been too long since I used social screen.
I mean, correct me in chat. I guess
it's just been too long. But it's just a point that you brought back earlier on was that we talked about how Sony was kind of positioning itself, the way things were kind of working out, and I think it is interesting that right now, on the PC side of things, they don't really have a headset that like kind of like Sony's in a weird position right now because like people keep going, oh, the index, and a lot of people still use the HTC Vive Pro 2 and stuff like that, and it's like, but they're older headsets that have their own unique shortcomings, and there's really nothing, and they're all over $1,000, sometimes significantly. I don't think the Quest 2 or the Quest Pro is even a conversation piece. It just was never aimed at gamers. It was never priced for gamers. It's just completely not even mentionable. And the Pico and the Quest 2 are very standalone, and I don't feel right now that there's any headset that and a lot of that is because of some of those unique properties of PC developers not being able to standardize, and especially when it comes to optimization. And so that's going to be something to really pay attention to moving forward. I will say, and I'll ask you this question too, coming into the launch week, what would you say, and with the exception of like wanting more AAA games, what do you feel is Sony's shortcomings?
Well, if I can't say that one,
because that's the one that everyone goes to.
I know. Well, it's cost of entry is what it is. I mean, that's the biggest hurdle.
But it's too expensive.
It's too expensive, and I said, like, I mean, I think. Like I said, I think it's too expensive now. I think it's too expensive compared to the Quest 2, and that's really that's what we're saying, or the Quest 2 and Pico. I guess I keep forgetting about the Pico, but I think that's just a timing thing, and I think when the Quest 3 drops, when we see the next iteration of mobile headsets come out, standalone headsets, sorry. I think the Quest 2 is people are going to see that it's priced a lot more fairly, and that VR as a whole, if you want like the VR that people want and I've been asking for the last 6 years, just isn't cheap. Like I hate calling this thing a peripheral irritates me, because I think it's so much. It's more than a peripheral. It's an entirely different library of games and an entirely different way to play the games. So I understand that it technically is a peripheral, but it's so much more than that, in my opinion. You're not, everyone's like, well, you have to buy the console first and buy the headset. Like, the headset allows you like access to something else entirely brand new that you just can't get on the console. So, and that's how I justify that. That's totally how I justify the price of this thing. I mean, sure, it's $1,000 to get both. It's $1,000 to get both. But what you're getting out of this thing, in my opinion, is next level entertainment that just can't be replicated anywhere else. It just can't be done. So, and I think it just points to the fact that for what you want out of VR, it's going to be expensive. Like this PlayStation VR 2 headset, I don't think could be any cheaper than what it is without Sony losing money on it. And that's not their goal. Their goal is not to lose money. So I just think it's more of a realization that one, Oculus was undercutting with their stuff and realized that point with their price raise last year. And two, that I think by the end of the year, we're going to see that the PSVR 2 maybe isn't such a bad deal after all when you see the Oculus 3 or whatever else comes out. When Apple drops their headset for $2,000, then how's the PSVR 2 look? Like it's to me it's a matter of my words escape me, but it's context. And
See,
right now the context
I
is
wasn't gonna
expensive.
say price. I mean, I guess fine. I mean, I see some comments there. I don't think that not having backwards compatibility is a shortcoming. I feel like
I'm really hoping that changes as time goes on. We do see more and more
well, that's what I
upgrades.
want to see. I want to see the upgrades. I want to see remasters, and I want to see, like ports. I don't, and I like the idea of free upgrades. I mean, I feel like just anybody who's like, nah, no backwards compatibility, it's bullshit. It's not how it works. Just because you want it doesn't mean that's how it works. These are old games with developers and teams that aren't together. These games,
And I mean
these
also
games are
too,
designed for light tracking and no analog sticks, and they've been completely optimized and
and
designed
they were
around
they
that.
were optimized for a headset with a quarter of the resolution. You
Yeah.
can't just switch that to
It would look like have you ever
it would
gone
look
and
like
if
trash.
you ever gone and watched VHS quality or DVD quality on your HD TV, it looks horrible because it hyper it hyper visualizes all the shortcomings. That's
Yeah.
exactly what you'd see.
If I was Sony, I wouldn't want PSVR 1 games directly being played on my PSVR 2 without some kind of upgrade or patch.
I would have liked to have seen Sony make this so that it could plug into a PC as a PC VR headset. But that was never going to happen. It
No.
was always going to have to be something that was hacked. That's just not how Sony's out there to sell PS5s and keep you on that ecosystem. It's just the way it is. So that was never going to happen. I would say that at launch, also the one thing I also wanted to point in that some people were talking about was the idea that like AAA VR games take a long time to make, and that like they're not coming anytime soon. Well, we also have no idea how long some of these games have been in development for. Sony was like originally sounded like they were going to launch this headset a year ago, which is why the lenses on these things might be a little dated too. Um, so we don't know. That's the thing. We just don't know. We know that there's a lot of first party studios that Sony says are working on VR, and we don't know how long they've been working on them, or what they're working on. We can make some good guesses. But I mean, think of the surprises and shockers we got in the PSVR 1 lineup, where we're just like, what? What?
Mhm.
That game's coming to VR? Holy crap. Like, I think we're gonna see that on a much bigger scale. Like, like Borderlands 2 in VR. What? Like, seriously?
Resident Evil
Skyrim
4,
in
right?
VR,
Resident
Res
Evil
4.
4 would be the best example, I think, in regards to the
Well,
hint that it was coming and then
yes, and
silence.
I saw somebody comment on there about the fact that just to clear up some confusion, that Res 4 that it would be a port of the Quest version. That's actually incorrect. The version that is supposed to be coming to PSVR is
Remake.
the remake, the Res 4 remake. So we're not getting some Quest 2 port. We're getting the new Resident Evil 4 in VR supposedly, which makes sense considering the engine that it's on the RE engine. So that all makes sense to me. My biggest thing, shortcomings, and I think it's a glaring omission with Sony, is that at launch they just are completely not venturing into the territory really of anything social VR. I mean, no big screen, no VR chat. I don't even know if Rec Room has even officially made a comment on that, but I don't think Rec Room's not there at launch.
Not officially there. No, nothing at launch. That's
There's
100%. The most social game we have at launch is Zenith. Or Zenith, however you say
there's
it.
just not a lot of that big social those types of applications. Um, especially like VR chat, I feel like Rec Room is great, but I do feel like next gen VR, I think VR chat. And I'm just saying like those types of applications, Sony seems to be not focusing on at all, which they kind of ignored with the exception of Rec Room back on the PSVR 1, and that worries me. That they're not going into that. There isn't so there doesn't seem to be any apps yet around like, VR concerts or just
Mm-hmm.
anything. It's just it's a big gap right now, and I'm a little concerned
I
that
don't know what's
Sony might not wanting to be introduced introducing, especially VR chat, introducing that kind of adult content into the ecosystem. If that's how they're looking at it.
I think we'll see. I think the social's still so early, and it seems like we've already settled upon like VR chat's the best, and everything else is secondary. And there's still plenty of time for that to change. I think Rec Room's obviously the safest bet. If I was a betting man, um, maybe I know things, maybe I don't. If Rec Room, I would say more than likely is coming to PSVR 2. I'm surprised it's not at launch. In all honesty, I would expect it sooner than later, just because of that social demand and because it would kind of um put a pin in that, or not put a pin in that, but rather it would kind of like satiate the social masses, at least in the immediate. So I'd be surprised if Rec Room didn't come this year. In all honesty, I'd be shocked if it didn't come at all. But I'd be absolutely surprised if it didn't come soon.
Well, I mean, I see that Jason's in there from the VR chat channel. I'm sure Jason knows things. Jason always knows things. I don't know if he can shed any light in chat. I don't know if that's for public consumption. I'm pretty sure Rec Room's been making some rumblings around a PSVR 2 announcement, even if they're not willing to officially comment on it. That's the other thing, is no 3D Blu-ray support. I'm not surprised, but I'm disappointed in Sony. 3D movies in VR are where they should be watched. Like, they really deliver. I tried
the PSVR 1. It was actually pretty fun.
Hey man, Star Wars The Force Awakens, there's a scene in VR. It was the only game I ever tried. I have a really good 3D 4K TV, so the 3D was better on that than in the headset. But still, that, like, now with the HD headset and HDR, but there was a scene in Force Awakens in VR where the the Star Destroyer comes into view, and it literally is like breaking the 3D plane like right into your play space, and you could like just you like lick the tip of it. It was like, oh, that actually sounds pretty dirty when
that's what you would do. You'd lick the tip of it. Way to go.
That's what I like about my VR porn. I can lick the tips. I like Kev Grit in there, and I also know Savage Gamer. We're all collect a lot of 3D Blu-rays, and it'd be really nice to be able to watch some in like all their glory. I always feel like VR could be what would revive 3D movies a little bit to a certain degree, if it ever got more masks and if the headsets became more mainstream. But anyways, I don't remember where I went on there, but the idea was that social gaming, I just think it's just a big hole right now in their launch lineup.
I agree. Obviously,
again, we're talking AAAs. I just wanted to go back again, and I think your review / our review of Call of the Mountain is probably going to address this to a certain degree. I think it's important to understand, with some of the less than amazing reviews for Call of the Mountain, I think there's a bit of a having to understand what Call of the Mountain, what its role is in this launch lineup. It's a showpiece, but it's also Sony's. It's pretty much Sony's entire PSVR world's wrapped into a game. In the fact that it's like this is the mind-blowing VR experience for the masses. Keyword being the masses. It's not for the people who wanted like an amazing deep VR experience that could sit 8 hours in the headset, and that was not the point of this game. This game was like to give you a bunch of experiences like bow and arrows and climbing and and just, I want to put my hand in the water, and the narrative, and it's beautiful, and and it's easy to pick up and play, and I can just switch the headset and everyone's having a good time. Like, you know what I mean? It's that type of game. It's a crowd pleaser. And I think that people have to keep that in mind, like, where Zedyons is like shitting hard on Call of the Mountain. It's like, you have to understand what Call of the Mountain was as like the bundle in game. It's for the masses. GT Sport and Resident Evil 8, those are the games you should be looking at for the hardcore gamers.
I like Zedyons. That was I really enjoyed that. It was probably Zions.
Zedyons. I called him fuckface before. I mean,
actually, he's been doing pretty good in chat. Keeping the conversation. Then now they're actually having it's a pretty decent conversation.
I'm going to apologize.
I won't block anybody. No one's getting blocked from this chat unless you become like an asshole.
I agree.
I'm totally awesome with conversation. Zion's like, you take that side, absolutely, man.
If
crazy chat.
if we can't take criticism,
Oh no,
that then
come back every chat, buddy, and just start flaming on VR.
if
It's
we can't
fine.
take criticism on this channel, we are all things VR and gaming, and so if we can't take criticism, then well, I mean, we might as well be in another VR podcast.
No personal attacks, boys and girls. Let's keep the chat relatively clean, though.
Yeah, no, I actually will say that Zion, yeah, dude, I feel like it's turned into a better conversation.
He came in hot. He came in hot, and then
came in
he's
hot.
yeah. Chris, we got to wrap this thing up here.
No, we don't.
Closing. We do. I'm like literally passing out.
Yeah, Ryan didn't have any sleep last night.
I'm on like no sleep, guys. I've been up for way too long for some reason. I just didn't sleep last night, and I tried to have a nap and couldn't sleep during my nap. So my fumes are low. I just want to end. Like, we've been up and down this whole podcast. I'll say it before. I cannot wait to get my hands on this thing so I can start playing VR the way I want to again. It's been so long, Chris. It's been so long. And my God, I'm pumped. I'm so stoked. Despite my negativity on some topics, I could not be more pumped with this. I'm trying to hunt a headset down beforehand. I went to Walmart today and was like, any PSVR 2s lying around? Maybe trying to pick on some like idiot kid who has no idea what's going on and getting a headset. Like I'm trying over here. I've got 2 headsets on pre-order. I'm really hoping one of them shows up on launch day. Salvador, you are the man. We love you so much.
Jeez, Salvador.
Distracted very quickly. Why Sony they don't make money on hardware sales, and they don't make money off of software sales on PC side of things. So having their headset work on PC literally doesn't do anything for Sony except move headsets to another market entirely. Literally, it moves it to like a Microsoft market or a Steam market. It just doesn't make sense, at least now. Maybe years down the road, maybe 4 years down the road, they'll open it up. I don't think they will. I think it's lofty. But as of right now, it doesn't make any sense at all. They need the software sales from Sony, from their marketplace, to support the headset. Back to my original saying goodbye, I'm pumped. I cannot wait for this, guys. We're going to be all over this thing next week. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm all over this. I'm tagging out, and then Chris will be on for the weekend. Then we're tagging back in. We are planning blanket coverage for this thing, side by sides, everything else. I've been working behind the scenes on stuff without a headset just to get it ready. We're pumped, and we're hopefully going to be one of, if not the choice for PSVR 2 coverage going forward. And we hope to see you guys all along for the ride.
Yeah, all those things that Ryan said. Salvador, again, thanks, man. We really appreciate your continued support. You're more than generous. There's nothing more to say than
Speaking
that.
of licking the tip.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of, like, as Ryan's out there, like, I'll suck your dick for a headset in Walmart's parking lot.
I didn't get that far. They didn't have any headsets to give me first, so
well, you know what?
I didn't have to haggle.
24-hour coverage. Ryan's the one that's taking some days off to help cover some stuff. Then he's got to go do the husband anniversary thing, and that's where I'll be taking over. We'll be pumping out the content. It is unfortunate that there's going to be a lot of content that's going to come out in the week before, and we just can't do anything about it. But we hope you guys will tune in to get our opinions on it. One of the things that Ryan and I, like, kind of when we started to look at combining the channels, was the fact that we had we both looked at VR in the same way, that we didn't want to fanboy out for one headset or the other. We were both gamers first, and so we think that gives us a little bit of a unique perspective, because we're not just coming from PSVR 1 to PSVR 2. We've played the PC, we've played the Quest, and so we have opinions across the board. And it'll be, like a lot of the games at launch, Ryan and I played the crap out of already on PC and Quest, and so it's going to be interesting for us to put on the PSVR 2 headset and see how that compares. But I mean, we could write some of those reviews in our sleep, so it'll we'll hope to get some content flying at you. But we will. I guess we'll have to bring this to a close here, guys. We went over 100 viewers, and I don't know. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Love you guys, and I guess we will catch you next Thursday. If we can
giving away some PSVR 2 games next Thursday, maybe tune in. Just
that'll
saying,
be the day after launch, and so we're gonna be. Well, I mean, hopefully we have headsets. That's the thing.
Oh my God, dude! I'm buying.
I don't know, man.
They're
I
gonna
don't
be
know.
they're gonna be in stores, right? In Canada, they have to be in
That's
stores.
the
in Canada.
problem. It's the problem.
We don't know. Sony, what are you doing? I just want
It's gonna be a
it.
very, very, very sad
Just
chat
a
next. There's
sad.
just Ryan and I just crying across monitors.
If there's no podcast, then or no PSVRs in our future, then there's no podcast next week. I can't do this without playing PSVR next week. There's no way. Just tears.
Well, anyways, just incredible. Nice to see you jump in here at the end there, man. Thanks for stopping by. Again, guys, appreciate all the conversation you guys thrown in there, super chats, and everyone who gave that little bit of extra to the channel. We really appreciate that's gonna go right back into the channel for you guys. I guess we should call this a night. Ryan needs to go to bed. He looks tired. You got bags, man. You got bags under
Dude,
your eyes.
I'm hurting. I can't believe I actually got through this as well as I did. And all
I haven't had
honesty.
supper. It's time to eat. I'm hungry.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thanks to everyone. Chris just said all the thanks. We love you so much. That's it. Goodbye. Say goodbye, Chris.
Goodbye, Chris.
Yeah.